Hey guys, welcome to the drawing stream. Thanks for joining today. If you're over on YouTube or even on Facebook, let me know if you're able to hear me. The sound is adequate, and that would be very helpful. So that I know I'm actually being heard, that would be great. So I know it's been a long time, feels like anyway. I had some trips, so I've been away for a while. And getting back to this, I want to go ahead and use Herculaneum Red and fill in some of these areas now that I've got a little bit of value on the other side on this portrait. That I can go ahead and fill in some of these gaps here on this side. It's this constant balance of building up the values slowly. That's the way I work, anyway. It's not the way everyone works. I understand that. I get that. But that's the way I do it. So I'm using warm white Stonehenge paper by Legion Paper Company. Now, I recently interviewed Michael Ginsberg, who is the co-founder and president of Legion Paper. And, he started the company with his co-founder back in 1994. So if you guys get a chance to listen to that podcast, it just came out. The audio condensed version came out today. So I would highly recommend it. Hey, Lisa, how are you? Good to see you out here. Hey, Nancy. So Lisa is over on Facebook. Nancy is on YouTube. Thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate it. This is one of those areas in a portrait drawing process that takes a long time and is boring, to be quite honest about it. I'm talking about drawing the cheek, shading a cheek, or shading, a forehead. It takes a long time. Maybe that's why some artists prefer to work in little tiny chunks and build up all the layers all at once. I don't know. But when you work in this way, it takes a long time, and so you get to occupy your mind with, like, listening to audiobooks. To be honest about it, listening to podcasts, listening to different YouTube channels that have something a little longer form and don't get your dander up. Hey, Carol. Carol's over on Facebook Live. Thanks for joining. All right. So I'm constantly rotating my pencil in order to maintain that sharp point on it. But to be honest, it's starting to get dull. So I'm drawing at an angle. This is not a flat surface. When it starts to get dull, often what I do is I will lay this pencil down on the tray. There's a tray right below the frame of the camera, and then I'll switch pencils to one that I have pre-sharpened already. I try to sharpen 2 to 3 at a time of one particular color, so that I can keep switching as soon as the point becomes dull. Otherwise, it can slow you down just constantly going to the pencil sharpener. Now, if I don't have 2 or 3 of a particular pencil, then of course I have to deal with that. I have to constantly go to the pencil sharpener.
Favorite sharpener?
Yeah, so Lisa's asking my favorite sharpener, and currently that's the AFMAT sharpener. You can find them on Amazon. It's the 2-hole AFMAT electric sharpener, long point, I think it's called, something like that. Comes in black or a black with some blue molding on it as well around the reservoir of the sharpener. That one I really do enjoy. The reason why I like it is because it's fast. I get less breakage from that one than I do on many others, and it gives me a long point, incredibly long point like this. Derwent actually has a very nice manual sharpener, and I like it. It's a super point manual helical blade, sharpener. I love it, but it slows me down. I've got to sit there and use 2 or 3 hands to to sharpen my pencils. So I prefer the AFMAT because of just how quick it is. I mean, that's the biggest differentiator for me in between the two, the Derwent Superpoint and the AFMAT electric. I prefer an electric because you know time is of the essence, and so I want to quickly get back to work rather than sitting there sharpening a lot of pencils or taking a lot of time sharpening one pencil. Okay, let me move down. I know some of you.
Lisa Hammerstein.
Whoops, let
I'd
me
like to
check
try
this
the
out.
manual Derwent. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Lisa. I think you're gonna like that manual Derwent Superpoint pencil sharpener. It's a really good one. Yeah, if you want to give that a go and try it, let me know what you think. I know many of you took last month's workshop, and that was a lot of fun. We drew Zaya in blue, and I've had several ask about different things regarding the workshop, and I do not have all of the videos edited after the workshop. Still working on those. I should have those out soon, probably early this week. For those that may not know, when I do a workshop, then if I don't get my drawing completed, then what I'm doing, because I'm not copying, I'm not having you copy just my art, and I'm not sitting there reproducing something that I created beforehand. I'm doing it alongside with you and helping you to understand also how to make independent choices when you create art. So we're using a reference photo and we're drawing from the reference photo, not from my artwork. I think that's a big differentiator between the way some do it.
I'm still working on the first girl in the Grisale series.
Okay. All right, Lisa, good to know. Yeah. So Lisa's still working on the one we did several months ago now. Nothing wrong with that. Awesome. I love it that you're taking your time. Getting back real quick to what I was saying, though, is so after the workshop, 1 or 2 days, 3 days, whatever they are, if I don't get entirely completed entirely done with my particular drawing that I'm working on, then I go ahead and film myself doing the entire thing, finishing it up, and then I make that available inside the course where you registered for the workshop. All of the all of the recordings from the workshop are available, and then all of the new videos that I put out there are available as well to every student who signs up. And you have lifetime access to all of those videos and the materials. I think that's another differentiator between what I offer and what many other teachers offer. Uh, Nothing wrong with what someone else may do. I'm just pointing out how I'm different in those ways.
Taking my time and loving it.
Awesome.
Delays. Want to get that CD portraiture pencil set. Birthday's coming up.
Ah, very cool. Lisa, talking about getting the Karen Dosh portrait set. You're going to love it. I know you'll love it. It's so good. I honestly don't know how I was able to draw portraits in colored pencil um, before we had all these great pencils that we do now, like the Caran d'Ache portrait set and like the Derwent Lightfast. They're just so good. There's just certain colors and values in those sets that it's you can substitute, yes, but it's difficult to find good exact color combinations that will match the value and color that you get with those. Okay. Running out of point on this pencil. It's getting very dull. So the tendency is to want to bear down and press really hard. So I don't want to do that. Go ahead and sharpen these pencils really quick. Yeah. I mean, it can be done, Lisa. But yeah, you're right. It's something that, using a substitute just isn't quite the same. For example, this Herculaneum red that I'm using right now, the Polychromos cinnamon color is a really close match, really close. All you need is a lighter value mixed with it. And if I remember correctly, going off my memory here, I think cream. No, not cream. Ivory, I believe, in Polychromos mixed with cinnamon. The cinnamon color is a really close match for Herculaneum red.
I loaded my progress and would love your feedback when you get a chance.
Oh, very cool, Lisa. Telling me you uploaded your photo version here that you're working on, and you'd like some feedback. Absolutely, yeah, I will give that to you. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I will definitely do that. Very cool. I love it when you guys are able to share what you're working on, even the work in progress, and we're able to take a look at it uh, early on or in the middle of the drawing, because you're typically able, you're able to go ahead and shift things and modify whatever issues you think you may be encountering early in the drawing process. And so if you catch it in time, you're able to do something about it. Even if you don't catch it, what you feel like is in time and you think you're done, often you're able to still modify um, things that will greatly enhance the final outcome. So I love that. Okay. This is going to be much darker over here. Down in this area right here. But I do want to get a nice even coat of this Herculaneum red. Yeah, give that a shot, Lisa, and see if what you think about it. If you don't have the Herculaneum red to compare um, that to, then of course you're not going to know specifically if it's the same, but it's very close. Even using cinnamon instead of Herculaneum red is a good substitute, just even by itself. It's just darker than Herculaneum red for the most part. The temperature is a little different as well, but it's marginal.
This time. We'll give them a shot.
Very cool. Okay, you may notice that. Let me see if I can zoom in. Maybe it'll help. But over here, where I've got a little bit of an edge going on, a little bit of a darker area, but starting to create a little bit of a line. I don't want that. So I could leave it because I know much of that is going to be, darker. But it would help me out, even in my mind, to lighten up some of those areas right now. Mostly because our mind starts to, can play tricks on us, and it can start to feel like that we need everything surrounding the area to be as dark as an area that maybe I don't, intentionally want it to be as dark as what it is. So I don't want to leave something darker thinking later on I'm going to modify it and lighten that up, somehow shift it back to a lighter value, because leaving it can signal to my mind sometimes that I need to go darker.
Comparison chart. Some colors don't have comparisons, but it's great to have that chart.
So Lisa's just saying that some of the colors don't have comparisons, but it's great to have the chart talking about Karen Hull's comparison charts. Very cool. Yeah, I've heard some good things about those charts for sure. Um, I don't use them a whole lot, but I see the benefit and value in them if you're, especially if you're new, newer to colored pencil. I think it could be very helpful if you're unfamiliar with a lot of the pencil colors. Okay. Take a look here. Let's see where I want to go. So what we could do, what I think I will do, is add more of this Herculaneum up here on the nose. Yeah. So if I look at the line that started over here in this dark area, I can add Herculaneum just to the right of that. and push it back into there. Hey, Maria, how are you? Thanks for joining us over here on YouTube.
Maria Mays, MA. I am good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks, Maria. Now, if I'm holding my pencil like this and I'm not anchoring my hand to the support that I'm on, um, I start to get tired. My arm starts to get a little tired, and so that's not something that I can just continually do. Early on, when I first started drawing again, came back to art, it wasn't something I could do hardly at all because my accuracy just was not there, and so I didn't have the control to direct the instrument in the exact spot that I needed. So I've practiced, obviously over the years. You intention or unintentionally rather um, get become more accurate just by doing, right? You keep working at it. But in large areas like this, um, it's still, in my opinion, a little simpler to do something that signals to your brain, hey, don't get in there with tight details. So I don't know, for you, maybe that's not choking up on the pencil, but using it way out here, holding it way out there. Sometimes that can signal to your brain to keep moving down the page, keep moving around in this particular passage of the drawing project rather than staying in one spot and working on details. When I look at my reference, I want to extend this color a little bit farther than what I even think I need to, because then I can use a lighter color and or use my eraser to push it back in the other direction. And that helps me out a lot, um, to extend it past any kind of boundary area that I think of in my mind. And the reason that helps is because I stain the paper when I do that. If I have to use an eraser and I remove some of it, I'm never going to remove every bit of that color from the area on the paper that I put it down on. It's going to remain a little bit. Some people refer to that as ghosting, but I've stained the paper a little bit. and I'm never going to get it back to the pure white that it was at the beginning. So I don't think of that as something that's negative. You use it to your advantage, and you use it to um, modify the value, the color, and to create a smooth transition. Because the second that I start putting down my next layer, I'm using that little bit of buffer zone that I created for myself by overlapping farther in one particular area than I needed to. All right. I'm going to use this color right down here on the nose because I've already got my darker area shaded here. There's just something wonderful that happens when you press just slightly harder. If you're using like this Grizzly method and you've got your dark value structure underneath already, you've got it already down, you press just a little bit harder, and suddenly that area underneath, if you've been careful and did a pretty even distribution of the pigment, pressing a little bit harder than with layers on top will move that around a little bit. It'll move that dark layer underneath just enough to put it in some areas that you want it to go. So it does a lot of the work for you, or some of the work, I guess I should say, for you. Okay, that's getting dull. Go ahead and sharpen these three again. Getting a lot of mileage out of these three pencils. The other thing I like about this sharpener is it has an auto stop on it. Now, it doesn't always work, and works on certain pencils better than others. Um, but if you're just sharpening mindlessly and you're not thinking about what you're doing, that auto stop can kind of save you sometimes. So the last thing we want to do is just waste a lot of our pencil inside a sharpener reservoir. Now, some of this dark area underneath the nose needs to be darker. It will be darker by the time we're done. But this middle value layer is going to help to define some of the curve everywhere. So it's nice to get this down. I also want to think about if I'm using a wax based pencil, if at all possible, and it's not a formula, but if at all possible, I want my next layer to maybe be uh, a polychromos pencil, an oil based pencil like polychromos, because it will help to blend what I just put down. We've been working on this particular portrait for a long time, but I am enjoying it immensely. If you're watching the replay later on the of the live stream over on YouTube or Facebook, then thank you for being here. Appreciate you coming out here. And if you're over on YouTube and you haven't already, be sure and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that. And um, giving a thumbs up if you're so inclined. That'd be awesome. All right, let me move this. I'm going to switch pencils, getting a little bit of a buildup. Now, sometimes this happens. I'm not sure if it's picking up on camera or not, but sometimes your tip, let's see if I can zoom in here, it'll start to pick up. I don't know if that's picking up, but on the camera. But what will happen is your tip will get dirty. It will start to take on some of the bottom layer, especially if you're using a polychromos um, pencil. It just is more of a more fluid type of pencil than these wax-based pencils, and so you'll notice that from time to time.
I tapped the tip on my eraser.
Lisa says she taps the tip on her eraser. There you go. That can work. Yeah. That's a good idea, Lisa. Okay. So I'm over here in these spots where we've got some. I figured that's what you meant, Lisa. The kneadable eraser. Just tap it on the kneadable eraser. I love the kneadable eraser. We're in this area of the drawing where it's much more um, delicate. There's a little bit of a delicate balance between the values because we're getting into a lighter area. So this is all a highlight right over here, top of the mouth. Got a bit of a cast shadow from the nose. But I do want to extend some of the color that I'm putting down with this red even into some of the highlight because it will allow us to, we can still remove it, but allow us to create a subtlety that is something nice to look at for the viewer. I like looking at that, so figuring I'm not alone. But I also don't want there to just be this very harsh, stark contrast between where the shadow ends and where the light begins. This isn't the lighting situation for that type of look. Now, there could be a lighting situation, obviously, for a very strong direct light where that would work. My opinion is that's just not as compelling. I don't get as much enjoyment personally out of strong light where there's a harsh shadow and where the shadow abruptly begins and or even ends. I'd like to see a more subtlety depicted. But, that's just me. Not everyone has that opinion. There's nothing wrong with that, but so that's one of the things I want to try to do though in my drawings. So I'm going to create those subtleties. even in the highlights. And really, what takes a long time to do, that's often underappreciated when you're showing your art, is those smooth transitions and those subtleties. That takes a long time. Um, it doesn't often get noticed as much or commented on as much. Nothing wrong with that. Sounds like I don't like I'm sour grapes about it or something. Not at all. Um, it's just it's just the way it is. Especially if you're talking to friends and family who they're not artists, and they'll notice something that only took you a few minutes to render, and it's fine. Um, it's our colleagues, our friends who are artists who understand how long some of the subtleties take. Okay, I'm starting to press a little hard. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'll switch over here. It actually feels like a long time since I've worked on this drawing. Probably hasn't been that long, but I've had several other drawings that I've been working on in between. So it just has that feeling like, oh yeah, what was I doing here? Oh yeah, this drawing. That's right. I don't know. Do you guys work on more than one drawing at a time? If you do, I'd love to hear about that. I used to not do that. It would really become distracting to me. Um, but I've started to do that more and more the past few years.
Lisa Hammerstein. Oh, yes.
So, Lisa, you're usually working on more than one. I still, I still understand the value in working on just one. I get that. I understand it. Um, Sometimes I feel like it can't be helped. Like you have to work on more than one.
I can't resist all the things I want to draw.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing with you there, Lisa. I totally get that. She's saying she can't resist all the things that she wants to draw. So yeah, it's easy to decide. Okay, I'll put that one away for a little while. I'll work on this new one. Then I'll come back to that one. I totally understand that. All right. If at all possible, though, in the
I have few grandkids.
yeah, Lisa says she has cute grandkids. Yeah, that probably would do it right there. Just you've got material already. So one of the things that I want to try to do is I want to, if at all possible, not erase early on in the process like this. If at all possible, when I'm building up shadows, I'm building up these key differences between highlights and shadows. Going to sharpen these again. And the reason for that is because when I may be erasing too early. So if I look at something and I'm noticing, that is actually too dark, the first thing I want to really do is ask myself, unless it's just really, really distracting, like we pointed out over here. But the first thing I really want to do is ask myself, okay, if it appears to be too dark, then does that mean that I'm not dark enough yet in my middle values or even in a highlight area? So, and if that's the case, if at all possible, then I want to go back to an area that's lighter and darken it up first. So, Lisa says eraser marks leave debris on the paper. Yeah, they can. True. And it can also damage the paper as well. So, yeah, a couple things to be aware of and to make sure that we know what it's doing to the paper. Yeah, but I also want to just trick my mind and think more about the values and think, okay, is it really too dark, or are the mid values and the light areas, are they too light right now? If so, go back over there and darken those up first before I go back and start erasing something. That's the main thing I wanted to say about that. That has really helped me quite a bit. It's actually sped up some of the process. That wasn't my intention, but it has done that. Kind of a byproduct of progressing through there and thinking about it in that way, with values first. Yeah, values are. I agree. Lisa's saying values are a tough concept to grasp, and um, because our minds play tricks on us. When we see maybe like a pink mountain line is what I'm saying. Um, those mountains earlier, maybe in the day, didn't look, did not look pink at all. But with the sun going down, we got that golden hour, and we start to see different colors. There's a trick going on because the values surrounding the mountains also perhaps are much, much, the sky, everything around it is much, much darker. Trees and everything else, much, much darker. And so our mind makes sense of whatever the color currently is. And sometimes that color is much different than what it probably truly is. Well, in some ways, Lisa, I think you may have an advantage though, because when you don't have an art background like you're talking about, um, then you don't feel like you don't have certain rules in your head that sometimes can limit creativity and exploration. And I feel like sometimes that's something that can plague someone who does have um, some training in art. Um, Nothing against someone who has training in art, but I think there's also advantages to not having a lot of training because, it's wide open. You're getting to explore yourself. Okay, that will be quite a bit darker over there. Look at this. Yeah, and I guess I'll go ahead and darken this up right now. If you start to see a greenish tint to your portrait, to the skin of your portrait, uh, often I don't worry about that anymore if I'm starting to see the greenish tint. Remember, the values are relative, colors are as well, and there could be something going on in the ugly phase of the drawing process that is creating something that is starting to not blend real well for a moment. That doesn't mean it's always going to be that way, though. Give it enough time, and with the other subsequent layers that you put down, it will probably work itself out. But you could ask some key questions about that. Um, figure out what's going on. Do I have too much of a blue color, perhaps too much yellow in there? Something may be happening that you could correct very quickly. So that's one thing to do when that starts to occur. And I did just what I was talking about with regard to darkening up areas surrounding a lighter value rather than using an eraser and I'm darkening up all these values in the shadow right here. Well, this value right in here surrounding the edge of the nostril, or right there at the edge of the nostril, was starting to look much lighter than I wanted it to. I went ahead and darkened that up, but I also darkened up all the shadows as well. Once you start darkening one area, then it's time to reevaluate every other area surrounding that element. And so that's what we did right here. Move this over. There's a little bit of a darker shadow right here on that plane, right there at the base of the nose, that I can darken up quite a bit. When I compare this area right here to this area over here, this is all dark in my opinion, but this spot right here is darker than this spot over here. So I want to darken this area first and then move my way over and darken up this area. We're darker under here. Now we can go much darker than what we did. Enhance that edge just a little bit. I don't want that edge, though, right there to be in sharp focus or anything like that. By the time I'm done, I could do that, right? If you look at the reference, you may say, well, I see a very harsh light line surrounding, right there at the rim of where that nostril opening is. And I wouldn't argue with you on that. Yeah, I kind of see that as well. But I have to ask myself, do I really want to depict it that way? Do I want there to be um, a lot of attention given to that area? If so, then yeah, I do want to create more of a contrast there. But if the answer is no, if I don't want that, then I can diminish that contrast and not make such a big deal out of that contrast. All right. I just want to blend this just a little bit with my Herculaneum red. Now we're going to go on top of this area to diminish an area right there that, may start appearing to be like a line, that I don't want a line there. So we may do that. We will do that, I should say. We're not going to do it today, but we will do that. All right. There we go. Again, if you're interested in drawing this particular reference, it's available on the website um, under, I think, resources and live streams. I think that's where I placed it. Um, it's also the full resolution of this reference, and along with um, less of a crop, a larger version of it is also available in Member Circle inside of Monthly Sharpener. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there for today. It's one of these things that it takes a little bit longer to build up a lot of these colors and these values. It just takes longer. The drawing process takes longer on this kind of surface, and with this technique. There are some less subtle ways of doing this to create it much more quickly. So that's not the approach that we're using on this drawing and on this surface. I like the subtleties that we can see on Stonehenge paper. And again, if you haven't checked out that interview that we did with Michael Ginsberg over on the podcast, then be sure and check that out. The podcast gets released each Monday morning. So you're welcome, Lisa. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Appreciate you watching, even if you're watching the replay. And we do this every Monday morning. So we'll see you again next week. Take care, guys. Bye bye.